On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, it's one of the quintessential tastes and aromas of Cincinnati. For 67 years, Frisch's restaurants have been serving up big boys with that famous tartar sauce, massive onion rings, and strawberry pie. But today, the nostalgic pull of Frisch's is at a turning point, and the stakes are high for Big Boy. Currently, the Cincinnati chain is facing an activist investor, a more than $3 million embezzlement case, and most importantly, a customer base that has more options and is steadily turning to healthier fast food choices. Experts say Frisch's could be sold or forced to shake up its style and become something more modern and appealing to younger customers. The fate of Frisch's impacts not only its thousands of loyal customers. In Cincinnati, between its 52 restaurants and commissary and corporate headquarters, it employs about 3,500 people. And keep in mind, Frisch's has paid a cash dividend every quarter going back to its IPO in 1960. It's had exactly 2 CEOs in the past 45 years, Jack Meyer, who became CEO in 1970, and his son Craig, who took over in 1989 and still runs it today. But in business, nothing lasts forever. Business Courier reporter Steve Watkins wrote this story and joins Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio with more.
Thanks. Oh, Steve, I don't like this story. Say it ain't so.
Well,
Frisch's. I love Frisch's.
I know, this could be sad news. Hopefully it won't be an enormous change like that where everything goes away.
So why are things so tough right now?
Well, there's a few things working against Frisch's right now, as we mentioned, and probably the biggest thing is just the change in dining habits. That, you know, Frisch's is an institution. It's been around 67 years, and a lot of things really haven't changed much. But people...
You mean those onion rings aren't healthy?
The buddy boy and the brawny lad, and of course the big boy.
So
Yes, but people are starting to eat healthier, faster.
Right.
You know, places like Chipotle and that sort of thing have become way in vogue, and Frisch's restaurant segment really isn't doing that great. So that's one of the big things.
So this activist investor, probably a lot of people like me aren't quite sure what that means.
Yeah, it's an investor and an institution's usually a money management firm, and what they do is they buy a significant chunk of stock. In this case, it's a little over 5% of the shares. Doesn't sound like much, but that makes them one of the bigger shareholders, and because they are an activist, in fact, it's called the Active Owners Fund, that's their purpose. That means they get in there, they try to buy enough shares, get some other shareholders behind them, and try to make changes. And there's any number of changes it could be. They could push for a sale of the company, which may or may not mean Frisch's Big Boy would go away. Somebody could buy it and keep running it. They might not even push to sell it, though. There are other things they could do. They could try to maximize the value of assets with things like selling off all the real estate and having Frisch's lease it back, or something like that. There's a lot of different, sometimes it's just pushing for cost-cutting moves that make the company more efficient, and there could be things that result in a bigger dividend, for example. So a lot of changes could happen.
And I mean, I know you can't tell us for sure, but what's the speculation on how this will all play out?
Yeah, people talk to a lot of money managers and some mergers and acquisitions people. There's a few things. I mean, certainly it could go on the selling block, and you know, if it's a public company, so if somebody tries to buy it, they have to consider the offer, and if it's fair for shareholders, you know, they have to accept it. There's a lot of merger and acquisition activity going on right now, both broadly and in the restaurant industry. So that's certainly a possibility. I think people don't think that's all that likely, and I think it might be more changes in format. They could go to more of a fast casual type of scenario where people go up to the counter, order, and then have them bring your food.
Gotcha. And you know, I was joking at the beginning about my onion rings, but really this is a Cincinnati institution, and Frisch's means so much to the city. I think of the Nutcracker, for example, and those types of things.
Yeah, it is. It has a huge impact. As we said earlier, it employs 3,500 people here. There are 52 restaurants, and they sponsor a lot of things. They're virtually synonymous with the Nutcracker that the ballet does. They sponsor the zoo, the museums here in town.
The zoo,
I mean, their name is kind of ubiquitous in the city, so it does have a huge impact on Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, Steve. This is a great read. Be sure to read the full print edition, and
thank you.
We'll send it back. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Kelly and Steve. And that is an institution that has given a lot back to our community.